Welcome to Learning React with me. Today, let's talk about props in React. Generally, components are independent and reusable pieces of code, just like functions in normal JavaScript. And the inputs which we pass to these components are called props. Let me show you how to use props in both class-based and functional component. Let me open the demo class component which we created in our previous videos. Here we have a simple message which says your class-based component is ready. I want to make this component reusable by printing the name of logged in user. So in class-based component, we access props using this keyword, and props is an object which is available by default. Inside props, we have all the input properties which we pass to this component. And here, I am expecting a username. And to tell React that this is a JavaScript code and bind this property value to the HTML, wrap it with the curly braces. So by this, we are binding the username to this HTML in this component. And in order to pass this property name, let me go to app.js. Here we have already imported the demo class, and now I will use the same property name, username, which I used in this component, and assign it with a value called let's say Ram. And let me show you how this component is reusable. I'll copy this same line and replace the name with Sam. Now when I render this component, I will see two messages. Congratulations Ram, rendered by the first component, and congratulations Sam, rendered by the second component. And in order to show you how the property looks, let me just render the props object. I'll use a pre-HTML tag to preserve the format of JSON, and I cannot directly render the JSON object onto the screen. So I'll use the json.stringify, which is provided by default by the JavaScript. So I'll copy this dot properties. Now I should be able to see what properties are passed to this component. And yes, this is our first component where the username is Ram, and this is our second component where the username is Sam. So if you observe, props, this dot props is nothing but a JavaScript object where we have a property called username which is assigned with the value Sam. Now let's see how we can access props in a functional component. Let's go to demo func. This is our functional component. It receives an input called props, and to access the username, I'll use curly braces to bind it, and props.username. In the functional components, I don't have to use this keyword. I can directly use the props keyword and access my properties. Let me print my JSON object as I did in my class component. Props. So this would print all the properties that I passed to this component. And it's not just the string values which we can pass as the properties. It can be any value like integer, arrays, object, etc. So let me just comment this out and bring this back in, and I'll pass username as Sam, and And I'll pass few other properties like age, which takes an integer, and hobbies, which is an array, reading books, watching TV. Let me also pass a dummy object. So to pass a dummy object, this is where I have to pass the object, and the object looks like this, b colon 2. So I can pass either like this, or I can store it in a constant and use this variable name here. I'll use the variable name directly, and let's access these properties here. I'll print the age, which is props.age. Make sure you use the same variable names which you passed in the parent component. And hobbies, I cannot directly print like this, saying props.hobbies. Since it is an array, we have to iterate through every element available in this hobbies array and print them to the DOM. So for this we use a map method, hobbies.map, which takes an arrow function. I'll name every element as item, and I'll return this item in the form of a paragraph to the DOM. Finally, let's print the object. Our object name is dummy object, and I have a property called A. Similarly, I'll access another property called B. So let's see how this is rendered onto the DOM. Yeah, so this is our functional component, and this is the properties which we pass to this component. If you observe, age is an integer, hobbies is an array, and dummy object is just an object. And this is how we rendered it onto the DOM. Yeah, this is how you access props in class-based component and functional components. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to InterviewPro.